let's get started here, folks. Thanks so much for joining in, everybody. We'll let people continue to join in as well. Just want to say hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Leanna Ramos, and I am the Marketing Associate here at JMIR Publications. I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's session topic is Promoting Your Research in a Crowded Landscape, How TrendMD Supports Discoverability. We'll begin with a presentation from JMIR Publications on how we can help you improve the discoverability and engagement of your work. And then our colleague from TrendMD will share how to overcome the discoverability crisis using their AI-driven tools. We'll then end the session with a Q&A where we will address your questions. So we will begin with everything in just a moment, but before we do, I want to call out a couple of housekeeping items. Firstly, all microphones will be muted during the webinar. However, we encourage you to engage with the panel by submitting your questions. You can do so by easily typing your questions into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen, and there will be a designated time at the end for the panelists to address them. Additionally, we want to let you know that this event will be recorded and the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So that's all from my end. Now I'd like to introduce Matei Tataru and Jennie Hornick. So Matei Tataru is a McGill University alumni with experience in sociological research. His role at TrendMD is supporting scholarly clients by optimizing content visibility and helping them achieve their readership and citation goals. Jennie Hornick is a digital marketing specialist at JMIR Publications, where she supports strategic efforts to increase the visibility and impact of digital health research. Her work focuses on content strategy, campaign development, and audience engagement across digital platforms. Jennie is passionate about helping researchers connect with wider audiences and advancing JMIR's mission to accelerate the dissemination of high-quality open access science. And so with that, I'll pass things over to Jennie to get us started today.
Great. Thank you, Leanna. And thank you everyone again for joining us today. So as Leanna mentioned, I'm Jennie Hornick. I'm the digital marketing specialist here at JMIR. And I'm going to speak to you a little bit today about how to promote your research and increase discoverability. But just quickly, for anyone new here, JMIR Publications is an open access digital health publisher. We have a portfolio of over 30 peer-reviewed journals, and that includes our flagship title, the Journal of Medical Internet Research, which is the leading medical informatics journal as recognized by Google Scholar. And aside from publishing research, we also really put an emphasis on author advocacy and research impact. And so what do I mean when I say author advocacy and research impact? Well, what we like to think of that as is really supporting authors, not just from submission, but to publication and then long after the research is published as well. We really like to make sure that the research is reaching the widest audience possible so it can have the impact that you intend to when you're publishing the research. So there's a few ways that we prioritize doing this here. And probably the first and most obvious way is simply the fact that we are an open access publisher, meaning that all of the publications under JMIR are 100% open access and freely available to anyone in the world at any time. So inevitably, this, of course, increases the reach by default, simply because there's no subscription model in place that prevents anyone from accessing the research. We also have a variety of KTS services. So this is an example of one. This is our visual abstract service. And what you're looking at here is a concise graphical representation of research findings. So this can be great because it allows your research to be represented in a way that's, skimmable and more digestible, and also a little more accessible to a less academic community. And something we strive to do here is find different ways that you can kind of format your research so that it becomes more accessible to a wider audience, and also in a lot of ways more engaging as well. We also offer press release services. So we have an in-house communications team who can kind of translate your research into a format that works for press. This, of course, allows you to get more media awareness and just public attention on your findings. It's also been proven that press releases tend to lead to higher citations, which is always great. And this is an example of our author stories program. So this is just another medium that we provide authors with that they can translate their research into. And this is a video service. So we partner with a service called StoryTap. And essentially, this allows authors, any published author with us, to freely create a short form video summarizing their research findings. And this is awesome because we share it on YouTube, and these videos are great for spreading across social media and allowing, again, a wider audience to learn about your study. In addition to these kind of various formats that we can translate research into, there's also other tools that can help maximize your discoverability and engagement. This one in the example I have here is TrendMD, which is what Matei will be getting more into with us today. But this is kind of a different approach to expanding your discoverability, because instead of just, translating the research like the other examples I've showed you, this is a more technical approach. It takes advantage of predictive algorithms, and you'll find that this is pretty interesting because it's quite relevant in our current digital landscape. At a time where AI-driven search engines are kind of changing how users find information, leveraging content discovery is kind of an interesting and timely approach. So we'll hear more about that in depth from Matei shortly, but just a quick preview at that. So I've talked a little bit about how we prioritize author advocacy, but something I do want to stress is that it's also important to, when promoting your research and trying to reach a wider audience, to consider yourself your own advocate as well. So just some key points to kind of keep in mind. As I mentioned, open access is key. Making your research freely available is automatically going to give you that much more opportunity to reach a wider audience. And as I mentioned in my examples on the previous slide, don't be afraid to embrace multiple formats. Don't limit yourself to a single PDF. Try and experiment with visual abstracts or creating video summaries, anything really to take your research out of a full paper model and try and allow it to be shared in a more concise way. And there's no way around it really at this time. Leveraging social media is essential. A ton of the academic community are on LinkedIn and X and now Blue Sky as well. So really using and leveraging those tools to build your academic brand and connect with your peers is essential. Sharing your work there is a great way to get it circulated amongst a community of like-minded peers and ultimately get more eyes on your research. And all of that to say, kind of, just be your own publicist. You got to think of yourself as the person in charge of getting your work out there. So in addition to the things I have just suggested, another great strategy is presenting your findings at conferences or seeing if you can speak on a webinar like this and, just get your work out there in unique ways. And as I mentioned on my previous slide, we do a lot in-house to promote our authors' work, and we want to support you in promoting your own work. But sometimes it takes a little more to really get noticed, and that's kind of where partners like TrendMD come in. They help us, reach readers in the places that we can't on our own, and making sure that the right people find the right research. So with that, I'm very excited to pass things off to Matei Tataru, who will talk to us a little bit more about TrendMD.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you so much, Liana, for introducing us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So today, I want to talk to you about a major issue that I have been looking into that is facing the scientific community. I like to call it the visibility crisis. And then I also want to talk a little bit about how we at TrendMD help against this major issue. I want to tell you about a system that is both simple and powerful, and that right now is helping more than 500 scientific journals internationally increase their visibility and their impact. It's a simple tool in the sense that it requires no effort from the client side. It's actually an article recommendation system. We've seen a little snippet of it in Jennie's presentation. Thank you for including that, Jennie. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how it works in a second, but first let's dive into the visibility crisis, as I call it. We are seeing a growth in research publishing. There's more research published today than there ever was. 2.5 million research papers are coming out every year. And at the same time that we're seeing this increase in the volume of research published, we are seeing a decrease in citations per paper. In fact, they've declined by 20%, excuse me, in the past decade. So what is happening is there is an information overload. There is too much information out there for people doing their research to go through everything. And at the same time, that makes it difficult for authors to get their papers in front of the right readers. So they are fighting, they are struggling for visibility in the face of this information overload. Now, I have done a little bit of research myself, and I have identified a second component to this visibility crisis, and that is one of the uses of AI. I want to talk specifically about AI overviews. I don't know if you've seen these things appear on Google. Basically, there are little snippets of information that sum up answers found in Google pages that are indexed, and that Google's AI Gemini basically puts together and gives back to the reader in response to a question that's been Googled or a query. For example, I was looking for a way to improve the health of the tomatoes I'm growing in my garden, and I got an AI overview basically explaining a problem related to the leaves, for example. And that's great. The only problem with that is, regarding scientific research, that it is creating a drop in the click-through rate on articles. Why? Because more and more of Google searches are no-click. In fact, in 2024, in the United States, almost 60% of Google searches didn't lead to any clicks at all, or led to a different Google search coming right afterward. So this has impacted some papers more than others, but I was reading about this article about the World History Encyclopedia. It is a Dutch journal, and the owner of the journal basically reported a 25% drop in their readership after they've integrated Google's AI overviews. So this is a tremendous impact to notice on a journal. So we have this overload of information. We have AI making a place for itself. The question is, how can we use AI to our advantage? How can we profit from it? TrendMD has been doing that for a while, and I want to explain how. Like I told you earlier, it's an article recommendation tool. So let me just talk a little bit about how we use AI to generate recommendations, and then I will show you kind of what it looks like in more detail. First of all, we use what is called collaborative filtering at the same time as analyzing personal reader preferences. That means that the algorithm is compiling data about the preferences of individuals, but also about the preferences of groups of individuals. You can see this being done in streaming services, for example. When a streaming service is going to recommend you something extremely popular, like, say, Game of Thrones, for example, and at the same time recommend you some more obscure film or TV show that it knows you might be interested in. That is because it is pulling basically information from your community about the quality work that is being appreciated by your community, and it is pulling behavioral information from you as well in order to tailor the recommendations to your preferences. So that is one component of how we generate recommendations. The other one is NLP, that's natural language processing. Basically, the AI understands the text and the context of an article. It understands what it means, and it understands how humans would make connections to it while they're reading through articles. For example, say a doctor is reading an article about cigarette smoke. The natural next article that they're going to want to read is an article about lung cancer, let's say. But there is no keyword relationship between those two articles. There is not one word that is the same in their titles, for example. But the algorithm understands the context and understands what is being talked about in these two articles, and in turn understands that it must recommend the article about lung cancer to someone reading about cigarette smoke. And in turn, the result that we're seeing with this is a boost in engagement thanks to this AI, because the recommendations that we're able to give are simply better and more relevant. And we've actually done a few studies about this. I'll talk to you about them in a second. But I just want you to see kind of what it looks like. You can see the article recommendation system right here on the right, and you can recognize it by the powered by TrendMD label on the bottom over there. But that is pretty much it in terms of, let's say, advertising or labeling and such. We strive to have the widget be as native as possible to the page that the people are reading through. Why? Because we don't want it to be something aggressive. The idea is to capture the attention of the reader when they're actively looking for information, and then give them that information in a seamless way. I have a client from a medical journal in Chicago, and he was telling me last week about how he still reads a newspaper, and his coworkers always ask him, well, Levi, why are you still reading a newspaper? Well, there are no pop-up ads in a newspaper. There is nothing jumping at you in a newspaper. There is nothing you have to close while you're reading it. So this is kind of the philosophy that we take with the recommendations. It is meant to be something that is seamless and that integrates into a reader's routine, let's say, instead of being something that is disruptive. We have compiled some data, and we have noticed that thanks to this increase in recommendations that we are able to get through the use of AI and our algorithm, we have seen over a period of 6 months an increase in 40% in article downloads. And we can also see for a period of a year a growth by 25% in citations. So effectively, what we're trying to do is fight the drop in citations by causing an increase in readership to scholarly articles. That is our number one priority. I also want to talk a little bit about an important issue that is very dear to everyone in the scientific community, and that is research quality and integrity as well. We are trying to use AI to increase research quality, both for people publishing their work and for people trying to use the work that is being published. I have another client. They have an enormous website with 634 journals indexed with us, and they just rolled out a search engine on all of these journals, on their website for all of these journals. and they have replaced an older one with one that uses AI. And basically the point is for readers to be able to find articles while they're sifting through this insane amount of information on the website. And Nick, my colleague, was telling me that he tested this search system and he was really impressed by it. He was telling me that it made connections in a seamless way. It made no mistakes in the associations and the connections that it was making, and it was way faster. And plus, I mean, it didn't lose focus, it didn't lose its concentration. That is one interesting component of the AI. Us as humans were, easy to disturb. Our concentration can get broken by anything. Our dog might start barking, our kid might start crying, or whatever. It might break our concentration. The AI doesn't have this problem, doesn't have a kid, doesn't have a dog. Matter of fact, doesn't have a concentration. It is a machine. And that's how we can use it to help quality or increase the quality of research. We can also use it to increase the quality of peer review. So it is something that can be done post publication and after peer review, but it is something that can enable the people doing the peer review to do a better job and reduce the margin of error. And finally, one other thing that I want to talk about regarding integrity is that feedback from the research community is still what helps maintain this whole network healthy and helps maintain its quality. We meet with our publishers regularly as much as we can, and we try to get as much feedback from them as we can constantly. So I've been, I've gone through the explanation of this transition from a traditional model of doing research and perhaps of recommending articles that it was based on keywords and associations like that to an AI model that is designed to continuously improve and to continuously stay relevant. That is the transition that we are talking about. Finally, I just want to invite all of you to join this change, join this AI revolution, as some call it, and to take advantage of these new tools that are coming out, that are becoming available to boost your impact as an author and help collaborate with your community as well. That was it for me. I just want to conclude by sharing, opening some time for questions.
Yes, thanks so much, Matei, and Jenny as well for your presentations. Those were very informative and I'm sure very helpful as well for everyone listening. So yes, we're moving on to the Q&A portion of today's webinar presentation. So we'll just give folks a few minutes to type in their questions as well. You could submit them anytime while we're talking right now. And I see that a question has come in from Lev Salnovic. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names here. But the question that they asked was, what would you recommend for articles that have already been published?
I think if they're asking in terms of promotion,
Yeah.
I think if it's an article that's already been published, kind of what I was alluding to before, I think the best thing you can do is, leverage your social media, share it there. If you don't already have kind of an established social media presence, I think prioritizing getting that set up is critical at this time. I would recommend focusing your efforts on LinkedIn. That seems to be a place where we get the most engagement with our author community. You're able to have quite a large text field as well to expand on your findings. And kind of like how I was talking about knowledge translation earlier and trying to make the research more digestible in different formats. You also automatically kind of have the opportunity to do that when you share it on social media. You're able to write a brief description in the copy area. So I think that's always a great way to do it. But of course, in addition to sharing the research, you need to make sure you have a network set up on there. So I think it's important to ensure that you're connecting with colleagues and peers in your field, because ultimately you want to get the engagement from them. So how these algorithms work on social media is the more engagement you get, the more eyeballs your content's going to get on it. So I think if that's not already something you're doing, definitely it's a great place to start. But if it is already something you're doing, just continue with that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you, Jenny. We're also getting a few questions as well about TrendMD. So there's been two questions I've been asked that are sort of similar here about how does an author register with TrendMD for their research to gain much needed visibility? And then also a similar question asking for clarification if TrendMD is a service just for businesses, if authors need to do anything specifically on their end as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Leanna. I'm glad to take those questions. Let me start with the first one, which was how can an author collaborate with TrendMD? It's actually quite simple. There are a few ways about it. You could read about us on our website, which we have a link to right here in a further slide in the presentation. You could also get in contact with me personally by email, and if it is the case that you would like to know more information, if you want to go, more technical, if you want to go into more detail about how TrendMD works, or if you want to explore your case personally, how it could help you personally, then I'd be glad to exchange either by email or to have a call and go into that in more depth. But the process is very simple. Beyond us getting into contact, the let's say the installation of the widget is entirely handled by us and JMIR on their end, and basically there is, like I said, there's no effort required on the client end once we have gotten into contact. So that's the way we can initiate that process. Leanna, could you please remind me the second question?
Yes, it was very similar. So how does TrendMD help authors and what exactly do authors need to do on their end?
Okay, so yes, what the authors need to do is literally just get into contact with us, either with JMIR or with me personally. We collaborate and we talk all the time, so that's the starting point. And oh, I think there was also a part of a question about is it available for authors only or only for businesses?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we actually do have a program with JMIR that is focused on promoting individual authors' articles. So we can promote individual articles that people have written, as well as an entire organization that we work with both, really.
Also, I can add to, I think that question, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but I'm not sure if they also meant how can the authors maybe add TrendMD as a service onto their article. But if that was part of what you meant, from our side of things, once your article has been accepted with JMIR, and you move on to pay the article processing fee, when you're checking out, there's actually a place in your cart where you can add TrendMD as a service onto your paper. It's also where you can add on some of the other services that I shared in my presentation as well. I'm not sure if that's what you meant by that, but just thought I would add that for clarity. Can also post an article in the chat here for reference.
For sure, that's helpful info to have. We have a few more questions in here as well. One question here from Zanel. So how does TrendMD ensure that my content is being shown or recommended to the most relevant audience? And are you able to segment recommendations by fields such as research field, geographic region, or user behavior?
Huh. That's a very good question. So basically, the algorithm takes care of how the recommendations are being disseminated, let's say, and it works along three pillars that I've spoken about. So it is along personal and group preferences. It also works along NLP, so natural language processing, and behavioral click data. So what all these mean is that the algorithm understands articles and understands readers and understands also the way readers click through articles, so it can make clear connections between A and B points in articles that are being clicked through by readers. And that's how the recommendations basically are generated. It's all automatic, but the strength of the algorithm that we've built over the years is what guarantees that these articles are being recommended in the right place and at the right time. So that's how that works. And for everything that regards, let's say, research fields or scientific fields in general, well, treating that part is also done by the algorithm, meaning that, let's say, reading about an article about, I don't know, cardiology will necessarily generate recommendations of articles that are in the same field because they will be identified as relevant by the three processes that the algorithm works along.
Okay. Just checking the Q&A here. But I think that'll be all for today. So just want to remind everyone that this webinar was being recorded and it will be sent out through email after today's session. We'll also upload it to JMIR Publications YouTube channel as well. So I think that's all for today. So thank you so much to our speakers for their wonderful presentation. So thank you so much to everyone for attending today as well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So again, thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.